Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
The title of today's lesson is the distributions of Paul. We have to understand that some people don't even understand that Paul wasn't one of the 12 disciples. Some people think that he was in there for some reason, so we're going to set a line between what they're supposed to do and what he's supposed to do. We're going to start with Isaiah 28, verses 9 and 10.
Isaiah 28, verses 9 and 10.
Go ahead.
Whom shall he teach knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
Uh-huh.
For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little and there a little.
Now, people say they say that Paul was going around teaching against the word, teaching against the Most High. They say that he wasn't teaching the true gospel. But we have to understand, we got to find what the gospel is. Anybody know what the gospel is? Well, what's the gospel?
The news.
The news. Let's get Mark. Let's get Mark 1, 14 and 15.
This is the book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15.
We're going to find out what the gospel is.
Book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15.
Uh-huh.
Now after that, John was put in prison.
Uh-huh.
Yahushua came into Galilee, preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Elohim.
Now, it said, preach the gospel of the kingdom of Elohim. Keep going.
And saying, the time is fulfilled,
Uh-huh.
and the kingdom of Elohim is at hand. Repent ye, and believe the gospel.
So, if the gospel, preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Yahuwah, right? So anything that goes against it is not the gospel, correct?
Right.
So I'm still trying to figure out at what point did Paul go against the word? Because see, you have to have an understanding of the law and the law in the testimony to be able to discern or understand what Paul is talking about. Because we can take a lot of things that he's saying and just cut the scripture short, and then we just lead ourselves astray, and we can't allow it to happen.
The whole religion set up based on that.
Right.
Based on just cutting it without knowing any context, without knowing what he's talking about, without knowing that he's actually repeating something that was said before that's literally from the Most High, from the prophets.
That's right.
From the law.
That's right. And you know, a lot of those doctrines that they teach out there on Sunday, you know, it really revolves around Paul. They don't really
Misunderstandings of God.
yeah, the misunderstandings of Paul.
Real quick,
But,
real quick, that last scripture you read, right? Can you read that again?
The book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 14 and 15.
Read.
Now after that, John was put into prison, and Mashiach came into Galilee, preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Yahweh.
Preaching the gospel of what?
Preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Yahweh.
Preaching the gospel of heaven.
Preaching the gospel of the kingdom of Elohim.
So we know on Sunday what they preach.
They preach about the kingdom of heaven.
They preach it, they're preaching about heaven.
Right.
But see, the problem is that they can't discern that the kingdom that's going to be right here in Jerusalem, right, is the kingdom of heaven. Why do they say of heaven? Because John said he saw something. What did John see? He said he saw New Jerusalem coming out. And he said the kingdom of heaven. Almost like if you think about it, right? You can say if a guy's from Texas, his name is Mark. Back then they would say that's Mark of Texas, right? So the kingdom, yes, the kingdom is from heaven. It's the kingdom of heaven. We got to also think about this, right? If I have my own house, I'm not going to give my son my house. I would help him get his own house. So if I have my own kingdom, don't think that the Father will step down and put him in his place. He's going to catapult him into his own what? Kingdom. So that's a really big issue when it comes down to the teaching and how the Apostle Paul can be mistaken, as Brother Abiyah was saying. It's kind of a twist of the word, right? And they're not breaking it down and getting an actual understanding of it. I'm good.
Matthew 4, 17 to 23. And we're still talking about the gospel right now. So
Matthew 4,
17
through 23. Matthew 4, 17 through 23. And it reads, "From that time, Yahushua began to preach and to say, Repent, for the kingdom of Yahuwah is at hand. And Yahushua, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Shimon called Kepha, and Peter called Kepha, called Kepha, and Andrea, his brother. Andrew? His brother. I'm reading from the Sefer, so some of the words I read are different from what you might see in the King James, because this incorporates some of the Hebrew. Casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he said unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him."
And that's the whole right there. It said, they straightway left their nets. So right in the middle of them casting out these nets, trying to get this fish, when the Mashiach showed up and said, "Follow me, I'll make you fishers of men," they dropped everything they was doing right then because they heard the word speak. They dropped everything they was doing right then and followed him.
And one thing I want to go on with what you're saying, I think a lot of times the encounters that we see in the New Testament, and really throughout, and even the perceptions of Israelites, throughout the Word, sometimes people are like, hey, it was Yahushua was speaking, so they just saw his eyes and they knew. No, it wasn't necessarily that. It was that the people knew the law, statutes, and commandments, so they were familiar with it. So it's the same thing. So just like you're saying, when Kepha and Andrew, when they saw Yahushua and they heard what he said, they knew that this is the Messiah. They knew it. It wasn't like, okay, all of a sudden he popped it in their mind. They knew it. They already knew the word. So, and going on from this, he saw other two brothers, Yaakov, son of Zebedee, and Yehukanan of John, his brother, in a ship with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets. And he called them, and they immediately left the ship and their father and followed him.
All right. Now this right here, this is where he gathered the 12, right? This is where he gathered them, and now they're now he's teaching them. Go ahead and hit verse.
And Yahushua went about all of Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the Besorah, or the gospel of the kingdom, the good news of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people.
So you're teaching the kingdom. The gospel is teaching kingdom the Most High. Nothing less, nothing more. That's what it is. And we have to keep that in mind, because if you got people out here that's teaching this truth, and they're coming in and they're in it, they're not trying to stray you away. They're not doing anything going against what thus says Yahuwah. Then you have to consider what Paul went through, because we can sit up here and take the truth all day. I mean, some of you, some people might say, oh, they just talking, we'll throw something there, get it out of there. So it's just some things that we have to understand when it comes to teaching the truth. Because you're gonna get those type of responses. We're gonna go to Matthew 3. And 1 through 3. This is just another script on the kingdom.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 3, verse 1 through 3. Verse 1. In those days came John the Baptist, preaching in the wilderness of Judea, and saying, Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. For this is he that was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, saying, The voice of one crying in the wilderness, Prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his paths straight.
So, with that being said, John was out there teaching. And he had to, he did what he did because he knew that the Messiah was coming. That's part of having that faith in teaching the gospel of this kingdom. He knew it was coming. So he went out there, that's just like I'm saying, like priming the car. You still do those things. You give it a little bit, and then eventually the thing will start up and take off, right? So what he did was basically he just primed it up a little bit. Just warming it up. And when he showed up, he showed up. It's in Matthew 10.
Matthew 10.
1 through 8.
Matthew 10, 1 through 8. Matthew 10, 1 through 8. And he had called unto him his 12 disciples. He gave them power against unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these.
All right, now you go to 12. And notice you're not going to hear him say Paul or Saul or nothing like that. It's the 12 disciples. And we're going to find out what they were charged to do. Go ahead.
And of course, again, I'm reading from the Sepher, so these names may sound a little bit different. The first was Shimon, who was called Kepha.
Simon, who was called Peter.
And Andrew, his brother. Yaakov, the son of Zebedee, and Yehukanan, his brother. Philip and Bartholomew, and Matthew, the publican. Yaakov, the son of Chaliph, and Levael, whose surname was Thaddeus, Shimon the Canaanite, and Judah Iscariot, who also betrayed him. These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying,
Now what did he tell them? Okay, keep going.
Commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the other people, of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans. Enter ye not.
But go where?
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
And do what?
And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of Yahuwah is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give.
Now, that's what the disciples were charged to do. He told them, do not go to the Gentiles. That's not what he wants you to do. Don't go there. You go to the lost sheep of Yahshua. That's what you're supposed to do. And you preach the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Luke 9, 1 through 6. Well, let's see what he did with the 12. Mm-hmm. No, Luke 9, 1 through 6. Acts 1. No, I'm sorry, Acts 9.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 9, verse 1 through 6. Verse 1. Then he called his 12 disciples together and gave them power and authority over all devils and to cure diseases. And he sent them to preach the kingdom of Elohim and to heal the sick.
Keep going.
And he said unto them, take nothing for your journey.
Take nothing for your journey.
Neither staffs, nor scrip, neither bread, neither money, neither have 2 coats apiece.
So he's just saying you take off and you go teach. Just go as is. Keep going.
And whatsoever house ye should enter into, there abide, and thence depart. And whosoever will not receive you, when you go out of that city,
do what?
Shake off the very dust from your feet for a testimony against them.
Now, okay. Now I know that when we see people on the street, and people inquire about our fringes, or they just start speaking on certain things, and then we speak on certain things. There's a moment of frustration that I go through because I want them to get it. Now I used to say, you just dust it off and keep it moving. You didn't get it, so what? But when I've done that, it was a testimony against them. I'm not trying to do that anymore. I'm not trying to. We shouldn't try to condemn somebody for not understanding what we understand. We shouldn't do that. That's not a righteous thing to do. Now, we stop there, bro.
Stop at verse 5.
Verse 5? Go ahead.
Verse 6. And they departed and went through the towns, preaching the gospel and healing everywhere.
Drop down to verse 11.
Verse 11. And the people, when they knew it, followed him, and he received them, and spake unto them of the kingdom of Yahweh, and healed them that had need of healing.
So that's the gospel. The kingdom of Yahweh. That's the gospel right there.
I'm sorry, and just to piggyback on what you're saying, there's a difference between planting a seed, and dusting your field.
Right.
And there's a difference. So you do have people that I don't know. In my walk, most people are not going to get it, and I understand from reading the word that the Most High has to open their understanding. I don't remember, but there very well could have been a point in my life where someone shared with me, and I pushed it off or whatever. So the Most High does have to open up, a person's understanding. So there's a little bit of difference between someone not getting it and someone that's rejecting it or rejecting it and wants to stay ignorant or in their own, what you call it, in their own, thoughts or beliefs without even considering it. But to go along with what this word is saying, which gets very difficult, I know it has, it's better for me now, but it used to be really difficult because I took it as they're rejecting me when they're actually rejecting the Most High. But also the Most High, the plain truth of it, according to the Scripture, he's not going to open everybody's understanding. And not everybody's time is right now. Somebody else's time could, you know, is going to be can be later on. We even see that, you know, amongst the people that you know that are, you know, when he's touching people. Look at Paul.
Yeah, we're gonna look at it.
You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna look at it real good. We're gonna look at Paul real good.
Yeah, so that's just an example. Go ahead, bro.
So now let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Acts 9.
Acts 9:1.
Acts 9, 1 through 15.
All right. Acts.
When you get there, go ahead.
Acts 9:1. Acts 9:1. And Shaul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of Adonai, went unto the high priest.
Now Saul, everybody know that Saul later became Paul. So Saul was running around just, oh my goodness, he was a beast going against the disciples and everybody that was teaching the kingdom of Yahuwah. Keep going.
I'm in verse 2. And desired of him letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound into Jerusalem.
So on his way searching out these 12, anybody that he saw worshiping or teaching his gospel, on his way, he bound them up, men or women. He didn't care. Then he's gonna bring them to Jerusalem to be tried. Keep going.
And just so we all know, like right now they might say like a religion is Christianity or religion is Islam or whatever. Well, it wasn't a religion, in the word, but it is mentioned as the way, followers of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say the way, they're talking about following Yahushua or keeping Yahuwah's way.
Right.
So we're at verse 3.
Uh-huh.
And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth.
That's a bright light, boy. Keep going.
And heard a voice saying unto him, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? And he said, who are you, Adonai? And Adonai said, I am Yahushua, whom you persecute. It is hard for you to kick against the pricks.
Now, the main one that you persecuted, they showed up out of nowhere. Just bam. It's me. Surprise. Keep going.
And he, trembling and astonished, said, Adonai, what will you have me to do? And Adonai said unto him, arise and go into the city, and it shall be told you what you must do.
Uh-huh.
And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man.
So they're going to witness it right now.
And Shaul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus.
Now, he was blind. That's why they had that's why they grabbed him by his hand and kept going to Damascus. He was blind. Keep going.
And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a certain disciple in Damascus named Hananiah.
Nice.
Ananias. And to him said Yahuwah in a vision, Ananias. And he said, behold, I am here, Adonai. Mm-hmm. And Adonai said unto him, arise and go into the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Yehuda for one called Shaul of Tarsus. For behold, he prays, and has seen in a vision a man named Ananias coming in, and putting his hand on him that he might receive his sight. Then Ananias answered, Adonai, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he has done to your saints at Jerusalem.
Now, Ananias was like, now, I understand what you're saying, but this dude right here, he coming through here, he's doing what he don't like you. He do not like you. Are you sure you want me to go do this?
Right.
So, keep going, brother.
Jonas did the same thing when the Most High was like, hey, go to what's the name of it? Nineveh, yeah. And the devil was like, nah. I ain't trying to do that. Right, nah, I'm about to go somewhere else. Let's see, I'm at 14. And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all that call on your name. But Yahuwah said unto him, go your way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the other people, and or the Gentiles, and kings, and the children of Israel.
So Paul, his charge was to go to the Gentiles, not the 12. That wasn't for them. That was for Paul to do. Now, you got to understand that that's just like one of us going right now. Well, going tomorrow, going to the Greater Ebenezer Baptist School on the left side of the foot, church tomorrow, over there in Upper Marlboro somewhere. Well, and there's not a lot of us in there, probably one or two, but we walking up in there. You know, that's what Paul was chosen to do. That was his charge. You got that Matthew 16 ready?
Yep.
All right, go ahead. Matthew 16, 13 through 19.
So the book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 13 through 19. Verse 13. When Yahushua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets.
Okay, hit that 15.
He said unto them, but whom say ye that I am?
Now, you have to be specific. He wanted a specific answer. But that's the point of testing your faith. Right? He wanted a specific answer because he knew who he was, but he wanted to know who he thought, who he perceived him to be. Keep going.
And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art Hamashiach, the son of the living Elohim.
Now you know how much belief, how much faith, how much honor you have to have, how humble you have to be to say that to another man and believe it. And believe it. That's hard to do. That's real hard. Keep going, bro.
Verse 17. And Hamashiach answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven.
Yes. Okay, keep going.
And I say unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
Now he gave Peter, I want to say, he gave him permission to act on certain things for him to understand. Go ahead and hit that 19 verse.
Verse 19. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven.
So he gave him the keys to the kingdom. He said, and upon this rock I will build my church. Right? That's the verse 18, right? So and then he turned around and gave him the keys to the kingdom. And as long as he's teaching or teaching his true gospel, as long as he's teaching that gospel, he said, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Correct?
That's right.
All right, now let's see what Peter did with the keys to the kingdom. All right, let's go to Acts 10. Acts 10. Yes, sir. Acts 10, we'll go 10, 1 through 28. Now, this is the first Gentiles that was able to be sat down with one of the 12. Because remember, it said, "Don't go to the Gentiles." Correct? Didn't we read that? He said, "Don't do it." So let's go ahead and I might chime in a little bit, but y'all can if you want to. But 1 through 28.
Acts 10, 10 and 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
And this Gentile was Italian.
A devout man, and one that feared Yah with all his house, which gave much alms to the people, and prayed to Yah always.
See, this is a Gentile that didn't know the Most High, but he knew that there was a greater being. He knew that there was something out there that was greater than him, that created all of this, the earth, the grass, everything. He knew that. And even with him knowing that, he still did what he did. Keep going.
He saw, I'm at verse 3. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of Yahuwah coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Adonai? And he said unto him, Your prayers and your alms are come up for a memorial before Yahuwah. And now send men to Jaffa, and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodges with one Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He should tell you what you ought to do. And when the angel which spoke unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, a devout soldier and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Kepha went up upon the housetop, or Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance.
All right, now right here, we're going to learn something on the way to learning something. We're going to learn something on the way to learning something. Ain't that how you say it? We're going to learn something on the way to learning something. Now, at this point right here, keep going, because I'm actually listening to the story. I mean, I'm actually into it, so keep going, brother.
And saw the heaven opened, and a certain vessel descended unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and the fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat.
What did he say?
But Peter said, Not so, Adonai, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spoke unto him again the second time, What Yah has cleansed, that call not common. This was done thrice, 3 times. And the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now while Peter doubted in himself, not in the word, but in himself, what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry into Simon's house and stood before the gate.
All right, now, this scripture right here, where he says that he hasn't eaten anything common or unclean. Okay, up to this point right now, this is what they use on Sundays. This is what they tell everybody. It's okay to eat unclean food. We got that, right? And they just cut it off. They just shut it down and be like, all right, fire the grill up. We can do it. You know? I know, right? They just say, all right, let's go. He said right there. You know, he said, eat. Told 3 times to eat. Now, with Peter keeping his true gospel, he had to think about that vision. He had to. Because if not, he would have messed up a lot of stuff. If he would have went out there, he was hungry too. Boy, and man,
he was smelling it.
Man.
And in the trance, like what?
Yeah, he waking up like, all right, I'll play that. just throw it on there. We stop it, bro.
Well, just to add on to that,
Uh-huh.
the fact that he said, you know, hey, not so, Adonai. This is after Yahushua was already sacrificed himself. This lets you know he's been keeping the food laws his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
He's been keeping the entire life to the point he's like, hold up. And then after Yah spoken to him, you know, he's still like he's doubting within himself, like, hold up, what I've been keeping and what the Most High said, that can't be wrong. So that's the doubting in himself. He wasn't doubting what the Most High said. He knew that came from the Most High,
Mm-hmm.
but he was doubting in himself, like, hold up. And then there's we'll probably
Right.
so let me see. Okay. So I'm gonna think about 18.
18.
And called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there.
Mm-hmm.
This is Cornelius.
Yeah.
At 19, while Peter thought on the vision, that the Ruach, or the Holy Spirit, said unto him, behold, 3 men seek you. Arise, therefore, and get you down, and go with them, doubting nothing.
Mm.
For I have sent them.
Now, that's an angel coming to him, right? The Spirit said unto him, behold. Now, we all understand and know that when the Most High sends an angel to do something, they got to do it exactly the way He say do it, right? They can't sway to the left, they can't sway to the right. They got to say exactly what He said, and that's why the end of 20 said, "For I have sent them." Did you get that? All right, go ahead with 21.
Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, behold, I am he whom ye seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that fears Yah, and of good report among all the nation of Judah, was warned from Yah by a holy angel to send for you into his house, and to hear words of you. Then called he them in, and lodged them. And on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him. And the morrow after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and he called together his kinsmen and near friends. And as Kepha was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man.
Now, Cornelius, with the Spirit coming to him, telling him to send for Peter, and that has to let you know that how much that he thought of the man that the Most High sent to him. And with Peter being as humble as he was, he said, nah, bro, get up, don't do that. I'm a man too. I mean, I'm really trying to understand why I'm here, but but let's go ahead. 27.
And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together.
Now remember, the 12 were not supposed to go to the Gentiles, right? Go ahead and read 28.
And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation.
Now that's still keeping, the gospel. Right? He was told not to do it.
Right.
All right, keep going.
And that's actually, that's the law, statutes, and commandments, right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? He says it's unlawful, so that's right. But Yahuwah has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
Now, they stopped reading this way back at 18 or 17, right?
Right.
So, and this is one of the things that Peter, having with the Most High building his church upon Peter, right? And with Peter having those keys, he had to open that door so that Paul could actually go out and teach to the Gentiles. Because we weren't supposed to go teach to them. So that's why he said, what you do here, we're gonna hold it law here in heaven, right? In the kingdom, right? So he gave him a permission to do that. But he was led to do it. He didn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm just gonna do this. He waited. Didn't know he was waiting on till he got there. But he was told to do it. And when he got there, he figured it out. And it wasn't about food. It wasn't about eating unclean food and all that. It wasn't about that. It was about bringing the Gentiles into the fold.
Absolutely. And throughout the scriptures, Gentiles are referred to as beasts of the field or fowls of the air. So sometimes the Most High is literally talking about, animals. Other times when he refers to beasts of the field and fowls of the air, he's talking about people of other nations, heathens, Gentiles. So that's what was going on. Even though it was in a vision, this is what he was referring to, and that's how he got, the unclean things that he saw in his vision. He understood that those were the Gentiles.
Right.
Beasts of the field, fowls of the air, creeping things, blah blah blah, wild beasts. Those are Gentiles. Right.
Now, we're going to roll over here to Acts 13, just a few chapters old. Yes, sir.
Do you remember when brother just read that what's that brother's name? Came out and he kind of like Cornelius came out and he kind of like bowed to Peter, right? So now this is for people that's already in the walk or newly in the walk. This is for everybody. We got to understand this, right? In most cases, we find one of the hindrances of Israel today is that the one that's trying to catapult this word out there, a lot of them gain pride instead of integrity, right? So you got to understand that this is not a prideful situation,
right?
Because Peter rebuked the pride that it came to him, right?
Right.
And then you drop down and somebody give me 34 on that. 34.
So this is Acts 10 and 34. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, "Of a truth, I perceive that Yah is no respecter of persons."
So don't think for one moment when these people come out. See, the problem is a lot of guys want to bring a lot of false doctrine. And they want to be like the Most High only talking to them. This word was set forth for all Israel. It was for all of them. And then it was open to the Gentiles. But what we got to understand is that normal church has been teaching us that we're Gentiles. Right? And a lot of us, when we find out that we are not the Gentiles, we are the chosen people, a sense of pride step in because they know some information. But you have always got to rebuke what? Pride, because pride is the beginning of the fall. Am I correct?
Right.
But it also teaches us in Psalms 26 that we should be a person of integrity. That don't mean that you're going to be a lowly man. You're still a man that speaks of power, because the power is not in you. The power is in the Word.
Right.
The power is the Ruach.
That's right.
The power is what sits behind what? The breastplate.
And I can pronounce it.
The Urim and the Thummim.
Yeah.
Thummim. That's the power. That is the Ruach.
Yes, sir.
But for a lot of brothers when we got there, they like, a lot of these YouTube thumpers, they get out there and they want to put themselves out there like they are this great thing.
Right.
But it's not you. When you pick up that pride, you just lost everything.
Well, look,
It's not, it's not about lifting yourself up, because the Apostle Paul said, I got one here, but go ahead, I'm not gonna bring that one, but yeah, you know, Paul would throw something out there at you, man. If your mind ain't right, if you don't know the covenant, if you don't know the first 10, better yet, if you don't know the major 2, you got some problems.
That's right. All that out there, I ain't gonna say. Acts 30, yes, sir.
I think some part of the confusion also too is like when people do realize that we are Israel. Like you hear a lot of people saying that Cornelius was an Israelite, and then clearly I believe he wasn't. But then I do think there's some confusion when sometimes if Israelites, if you didn't call yourself a Gentile, the Greeks or Romans they'll kill you. So it's kind of like a gray area, I think, unless I have a wrong understanding of it.
Well, here you go right here.
Yeah.
35.
35.
But in every nation, he that fears him and works righteousness is accepted with him.
Read.
The word which Yahuwah sent unto the children of Israel, preaching peace by Yahushua HaMashiach, he is Yahuwah of all. That word I say ye know, which was published throughout all Judah, or Judea, I guess, and began from Galilee after the immersion with John, which John preached.
So the book of Obadiah exists. We know that the book of Obadiah exists. We know the promises of the book of Obadiah. We know that, right? But we also know that back in 35, it says that what? Every nation. Because the Apostle Paul, but John, when John got that revelation, he began to write inside of the book of Revelation. He saw some things that other people didn't see because it was given to him by HaMashiach. The same guy that's on the scene, the same one that appointed the apostles, right? The same guy. So, being in that point, a lot of us, when we find out this truth, we think that everybody's condemned, right?
Right.
But the Most High elevates who He wants to elevate.
Right.
The Most High gives salvation to anybody He wants to have that salvation.
Right.
Our primary resource, our primary thought, our primary understanding is that we need to get it for ourselves. Because can't nobody preach you or teach you into the kingdom. You have to get into the kingdom.
Seek ye first
The what?
the kingdom.
Because if you don't seek that first, there's nothing else going to be handed unto you. He said all other things going to be given unto you.
Work out your own salvation.
But you got people that are looking for everything else, and they're not looking for the kingdom. Because we don't do any judging. Judgment starts in that word. That's where the power, that's where the sharpness, that's where the striking comes from. If we cannot be pricked by the word, which is what? The Ruach, right? Then how can we move forward in edification? Because we're not all going to come out there with the right understanding.
Right.
And also, we must err on the side of caution. And I like to say that because it's true. You have to. You got guys out here being real cocky, and they're doing and saying things cocky, if that's a word. Y'all can call me Jesse.
Yeah.
But when they do that, what they do is they elevate themselves. But what? Peter stepped back. You see?
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to.
Yeah,
Meek.
got to.
And to go on with that, we'll talk about what you just mentioned as well. But to go on with that, like a lot of times what we see, what you're saying is we're happy. We've been downtrodden and still are downtrodden so much that we just want, to find out who we are. It is a wonderful thing. It's an absolute wonderful thing.
It's pleasurable.
Yeah, it's awesome. Sure. I feel awesome. But really, if you think about it, we have actually more pressure. We got more weight on us. You know what I'm saying? It's a blessing, but we have a position. We have a position. So what happens a lot of times is that, as you were mentioning, we end up worshiping the fact that we are Israel instead of worshiping the Most High. We got this thing mixed up. So you hear that in a lot of songs. Like, it's one thing to be very, I'm very happy to be an Israelite, but we can't get it twisted. I think it's extremely important that we know who we are. For me personally, that's where things kind of started and kicked me off. In terms of, that's what he opened my mind to first. And then I was able to see the scriptures completely differently. Like, this is literally my family that I'm reading about. I understand that.
And then once you understand the scriptures the way that you do now,
Right.
now we still got to understand that there's still more to learn.
Definitely
There's still more to learn.
more to learn, and then you find out the impact of what's necessary. But we like but you hear it in like songs many times. The focus is on Israel. The word is focused on Israel.
Right.
However, again, we are Israel. That's very, very important. But the focus must be on Yahushua. The focus must be on Yah.
Right.
That's who we worship. We don't worship the fact that we are Israelites.
Right.
We are in a position. He put us in a particular order. He also called us our children, his children, and we are his. He's married to us as well.
Right.
But it's an order.
Actually, he put us in a position that we're trying to get back to.
Right.
Go ahead, sister.
So on top of that too, in Isaiah 14:1-7, it tells us that they're going to cleave to us.
Right.
And one thing that they did was, once again, like Brother Elder Eliyahu said, that they had us thinking we was the strangers and that we was going to cleave to them. But in the scripture, it's saying they're going to cleave to us.
Right.
So we have to teach that we have to teach the gospel to the full corner spirit. There's going to be many of them that's going to grab hold of it more than us.
Right.
And they're going to know, like, you are the child, you are the chosen. We want to follow your Elohim, not ours. Like, we know ours is wicked. We want yours, but that's something we have to keep once we understand for Israel, because that's still going to give us a ticket.
Nope. Not
We
whatsoever.
still held accountable for what we're supposed to
We're
do.
gonna be judged first.
That's right.
And we don't worry about like the whole fame thing, and we shouldn't. That's just, I don't even understand the mindset, period. But the Most High in His Word said He's going to actually give us fame. He's going to do that. He's going to make us known and renowned and blah, blah, blah. Not that I even personally want that, but that's what He wants to do for us. That ain't even our job or our position. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. But then going back to what you're saying, there are Israelite Gentiles, and there are Gentiles of other nations. So blood Gentiles. So we have, and it is very confusing. But even if we look at how many of the books in the renewed covenant start off talking about to the such and such assemblies. He's talking to Israelites. In these different places, scattered in these different nations. So they're sent to Israelites in these different nations. They're called Gentiles because the 10 tribes they left the Most High, and they went to seek after the ways of the Gentile nation. So they weren't Gentiles by blood, but they became Gentiles by mind and by heart. So he divorced those people. So Judah began to call, which is the lower kid, began to call those people Gentiles, even though they were Israelites by blood. So they're still referred to as Gentiles many times, in the scriptures. And even like another thing that's misconstrued is there's no Greek, and there's no Jew. Well, if you really understand the Greek, if you look in the word, there's Greeks and there's Grecians. The Greeks were actually Israelites. Exactly. So he's actually saying the same thing. Like, look, we're one family. There's no kingdom of Israel and kingdom of Judah. We're all one. That's what, there's no Greek and no Gentile, Greek and no Jew means. It's not that, he's talking about that. So in addition to that, like the elder was saying, the scriptures are opened up to other nations that choose to cleave unto Israel and the covenant. They recognize who Israel is, not that they're worshiping Israel, but because there's an order, and that's the way the Most High set things for it. And there's an order to things. So he's also opening up to other nations. And even when we see prophecies about the other nations, there's multitudes from other, I can't remember the specific one, but he's basically talking about multitudes of people unnumbered are worshiping in the kingdom from all nations. know, that's not just Israel.
Yeah, it was just about what he was saying, the Gentiles, how the northern tribe, the other 10 tribes were called Gentiles as well. And when Paul was talking in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 1 to 2, that says, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. You know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. And just to piggyback over what Brother Kevin was saying, that's the same as today. We have a lot of our peoples taking on customs of the heathens, like celebrating Christmas, that kind of stuff, which technically would make us in a Gentile state. So like the Jews were saying, to the northern tribe, basically calling them Gentiles because of it. But
They did not get along.
at all, yep.
So you see the same thing that we're going through today. So in Acts, you see the disciples trying to pull them together. Even Paul trying to pull them together because the northern kingdom and the kingdom of Judah, they were at odds. They didn't like each other. They were cousins. They knew it. They were brothers. They knew it, but they didn't like each other. So even at the woman at the well, you basically see how the woman's like, Judah doesn't even basically get y'all food with us. Why are you coming over to?
And also, like what Brother Kevin was saying, he mentioned, Revelation where they talked about the 144,000 of the 12,000 each tribe of Israel. And then after that, and this is where all nations fit into the fold, where it says, it's Revelation 7, verse 9. So before they're talking about, 12,000 each tribe. And then verse 9 states, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So you're going to have, like Sister Urella was saying, the other form of Gentiles, other nations, they are going to cleave to this truth, and some will be spared when that time comes. So you're going to have all nations.
And this is how, and this goes back to, again, another something else is being misconstrued, that promise to Abraham, because, through your seed, all nations will be blessed. That's how they're going to be blessed. It's not that he's saying all nations will be spared, which is like what we hear, like everybody's his creation, everybody's his children, and stuff like that. That's not what that means. Through Abraham's seed, his chosen seed, all nations will be blessed, meaning that all nations will be right. And if they have the option to come to serve the king, not serve Israel, but serve the king through the king's chosen vessel, Israel.
Right. And the brother had a very valid statement there, that there are some Gentiles that are Gentiles, and there are some Israelites that are Gentiles. Based on what? When the Most High gave us the land, right? When he gave us our title, when he started leading us to it, he said, when you go out into the land, do not do what? What the heathens do. The heathens are the Gentiles. Because now you got to go from a physical into a spiritual. When you get into the spiritual part of this thing, it's almost like you are what you eat. You are what you do. Right? It's just like Satan being the father of lies. If you follow Satan, then that's where you are. You with that. Right. If you follow righteousness, then you're what? You're a righteous person. Right. But Scripture says the righteous be scarcely saved. Now just think about this. Scarcely the righteous, the most righteous man on earth, he's scarcely saved. He barely got it by the skin of his teeth, and teeth don't have skin. Right? It says, where will what? Where would the ungodly and the sinner appear? So that means there's three categories. So we know what righteous is, we know what sinner is. What is the ungodly? It's that guy that done crossed over. It's that guy that don't recognize that hypothetically the ones come out and say, well, you don't have to keep the law. A lot of people are really falling away from the law. They're falling away from it, and they're falling away from it real strong. Most people say it's not possible for us to keep the law. But I beg to differ. He made it easier for us. He broke it down to 2. You know what I mean? But we do know that that covers everything. It covers it all, right? we have to be really careful with a few things here, right? And I want to give you something really quick here. It ain't gonna take me long, I'll be out the way. But we can go to 1 Peter 4, 5. Can you just read that? You can read that, didn't you? What was that? That was 17. 4 and 5, right?
Alright. So 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 4 and 5.
Yeah, but think about this, right? Just think about this.
1 Peter chapter 1, verse 4 to 5. To an inheritance.
1 Peter 4 and 5?
1 Peter. Yeah, 1 Peter
Chapter 4.
chapter 4. Chapter 4, verse 5. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 5. Who shall give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead?
And we got to think about that, right? Who actually going to judge the quick and the dead? Right? Just think about that. Just think about that for a moment. Read again. Keep reading.
For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead.
And that's something.
That
This
they
is not going to be a thing you can die and get away from. You can kill yourself and be dead, and judgment going to still come. He's going to wake you up and judge you. Do you think you got away? He's going to wake you up and judge you. Read.
that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but living according to Elohim in the spirit.
You see that? So if you live it like the Gentiles, you're gonna be considered a Gentile. If you live it in the spirit, right, you're gonna be considered as a righteous spiritual being.
Right.
That's the difference in being ungodly and righteous. And we have to see that. So okay, so read that 7th verse.
Verse 7.
Uh-huh.
But the end of all things is at hand.
You see that? Quicker than a hiccup. Keep going.
Be ye therefore sober,
And what else?
and watch unto prayers.
Drop down to that 17th verse.
Verse 17.
Yes, sir.
For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of Elohim.
And when they say the house of our Elohim, they don't mean that the men that's sitting in the house. It's the word.
Right.
Because the power is in the word. The power is in knowledge. And we got to understand that it's the word. Right? And it's our behavior toward the understanding of righteousness that makes a difference in our well-being. And whether we be waking up, see, regardless, you're going to be judged regardless. Regardless, you're going to be judged. It don't matter. You're going to be judged. And regardless, you're going to have everlasting life. Wow, and that's something. How can you say that boldly? But you will. Regardless, you're going to have everlasting life. But will your everlasting life be in the kingdom? Or will it be in the pit? Because you're going to burn for the rest of your life, but you're not dead. It says it's going to be a bottomless pit, meaning you be continuous to fall with worms and snakes, all this crap in there with you. Right? So we got to think about it. We're going to be judged regardless. We're going to live forever regardless. But the question is how you going to be judged, and the what, and the outcome of your judgment, right? And your state of being from that point on.
That's right.
Because there are going to be some righteous people that are going to judge right along with our Mashiach. The question is, where do we fall? Where are we at? We can't be a Gentile in gifts. Not that way.
Right.
Right? Go ahead, brother.
All right. You had X.
Yeah.
13, 1 and 2.
Acts chapter 13, verse 1 through 2. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers.
There were certain prophets and teachers in this church. Go ahead.
Certain prophets and teachers as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. As they ministered to the Lord and fasted, the Holy Ghost said, Separate me, Barnabas and Saul, for the work whereunto I have called them.
Now, all right, we'll go down to 13, but the Ruach came in and told them to separate Barnabas and Saul, because they got something I need them to go do. Now, this right here, the rest of this 13, we're gonna read, ooh, that's a lot. All right, we're gonna do 13 through 32. This is Paul's first sermon, right? This is Paul's first sermon. So, I'm not gonna interrupt you, bro, because there's a lot of scripts you gotta run through real quick. So, let's go ahead, 13 through 32 real quick.
The book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 13. Now when Paul and his company loosed from Paphos, they came to Perga in Pamphylia, and John, departing from them, returned to Jerusalem. But when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch in Pisidia, and went into the synagogue on the Shabbat day, and sat down. And after the reading of the law and the prophets, the rulers of the synagogue sent unto them, saying, Ye men and brethren, if ye have any word of exhortation for the people, say on. Then Paul stood up, and beckoning with his hand said, Men of Israel, and ye that fear Yahweh, give audience. The Elohim of this people of Israel chose our fathers and exalted the people when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt, and with an high arm brought he out of it. And about the time of 40 years suffered he their manners in the wilderness. And when he had destroyed 7 nations in the land of Shanaan, he divided their land to them by lot. And after that he gave unto them judges about the space of 450 years until Samuel the prophet. And afterward they desired a king. And Elohim gave unto them Saul, the son of Cis, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, by the space of 40 years. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony, and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, which shall fulfill all my will. Of this man's seed hath Elohim, according to his promise, raised unto Israel a Savior, Hamashiach. When John had first preached before his coming the baptism of repentance to all the people of Israel. And as John fulfilled his course, he said, Whom think ye that I am? I am not he, but behold, there cometh one after me, in whose shoes of his feet I am not worthy to loose. Men and brethren, children of the stock of Abraham, and whosoever among you feareth Elohim, to you is the word of this salvation sent. For they that dwell at Jerusalem and their rulers, because they knew him not, nor yet the voices of the prophets which are read every Sabbath day, they have fulfilled them in condemning him. And though they found no cause of death in him, yet desired they Pilate that he should be slain. And when they had fulfilled all that was written of him, they took him down from the tree and laid him in the sepulchre. But Elohim raised him from the dead, and he was seen many days of them which came up with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are his witnesses unto the people. Verse 32. And we declare unto you glad tidings, how that the promise which was made unto the fathers.
All right. That was Paul's first sermon. What part of that sounds like that this man could go against anything, or that he would teach against anything that was against the kingdom. What part of that?
Or something new for that matter.
Or something different? What part of that first sermon that he did reflects that? Drop down to 42.
Verse 42.
Read through 50. 42 through 50.
Verse 42. And when the Jews were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Sabbath. Now when the congregation was broken up, many of the Jews and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of Elohim. And the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Elohim. But when the Jews saw the multitudes, they were filled with envy and spake against those things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and blaspheming. Then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary that the word of Elohim should first have been spoken to you.
Did we just say that? Keep going.
But seeing ye put it from you, and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, lo, we turn to the Gentiles.
But that says a lot, don't it? You turn to the Gentiles. I mean, go out there and live like them. Do what they do.
You know, 47?
Verse 47. For so hath the Lord commanded us, saying, I have set thee to be a light of the Gentiles, that thou shouldest be for salvation unto the ends of the earth.
So he went there teaching to the Jews first. They started kicking him butt. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go teach the Gentiles then, so they can get it. Because that's what I was trying to do from the get-go, is to be a light to the Gentiles. Keep going.
Verse 48. And when the Gentiles heard this, they were glad and glorified the word of the Lord. And as many as were ordained to eternal life believed. And the word of the Lord was published throughout all the region.
Now what his brothers do to him? Read that first.
Verse 50.
Yeah, what his brothers do to him?
But the Jews stirred up the devout and honorable women and the chief men of the city, and raised persecution against Paul and Barnabas, and expelled them out of their coasts.
All right. So
Off the bat, we see, like we were talking about earlier,
Right.
Israel's role with the other nations.
Right.
As it says. So again, not that they're worshiping Israel, but it says right here, and this is a precept anyway. There's a precept for it. This is at 47. For so has Yah commanded us, saying, I have set you to be a light to the other people, that you should be for salvation unto the ends of the earth. So we're literally the salvation of the other people, because they have to come through us in order to receive the Most High. So it ain't about worship, that's just the order. But whatever, brother. Talking about how that pride that Elder was talking about, how they stirred it up amongst the people. When the truth was being spoken. We also see that Shabbat was still being kept.
now,
You know what I'm saying?
imagine you knowing who Paul was, right? And you show up on Shabbat, he walked through the door. You think everybody finna go to jail. That man said, anybody got something to say, gonna say it. Paul said, all right. It looked like he took over the whatever they was talking about, because he ran down through it. Got him kicked off the coast. I mean, they don't even want him. They don't even want him on the land. But you gotta leave. This is what I say. Look, you gotta leave Virginia, man. Don't come back to Virginia. You gotta get out of here. Did you now?
But then it also goes right back to the instruction that he received, that Peter received before at 51. But they shook off the dust off their feet against them and came unto Iconium. You know what I'm saying? So still keeping what he was told. Sure. So going back with how you kind of kick things off, some of our folks are going to reject us. It doesn't feel good, but if we can understand what the Most High said, that's almost like, shaking the dust off feet. That's like, all right, let me clear it. Let me let that go and let me keep on moving.
Now, if anybody, we got a little time left. Man, I want to get there. Is there anything that you read that Paul said they used to trip you up a little bit?
Yeah, food, the stuff about the food. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I was told. That's what I believe. Didn't question it.
Okay. Now, there's a lot. I'm not even gonna go down that line, but the brother is persecuted for teaching the gospel of the kingdom. He wasn't teaching what he thought. He wasn't teaching. He wasn't teaching. Okay, you can go to church on Sunday and still keep the laws, because you can't go to church on Sunday and still keep the laws because you're breaking the command, which is remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. That's some of the things that's getting our people caught up, because these pastors out there just telling them what they want to hear to get in their pocket.
What's accepted by the multitude. It's accepted by everybody.
So, you got that Acts 24, I said 24?
Yeah, Acts 24 and 1. Acts 24 and 1. And after 5 days, Ananias, the high priest, descended with the elders, and with a certain orator named Tertullus, who informed the governor against Shaul.
Now, Ananias was a high priest, and apparently he wasn't doing right. Because this man coming through there teaching his truth, but you either didn't have an understanding to understand it, or you just being downright hateful or jealous or whatever. Drop down to verse 5.
Acts 24 and 5. For we have found this man a pestilent fellow, and a mover of sedition among all the Yahudim, or the Jews, throughout the world, and a ringleader of the sect of the Nazarene.
See, he just threw that on his back. Wow. A sect of Nazarenes. Those are the ones that took the Nazarene vow, right? So he just threw all this on Paul, and the only thing he was doing what he was told to do.
All kinds of accusations.
All this just accused him of everything. Keep going.
I'm at 6. Who also has gone about to profane the temple, whom we took and would have judged according to our Torah. But the chief captain Lysias came upon us with great violence, and with great violence took him away out of our hands, commanding his accusers to come unto you, by examining of whom yourself may take knowledge of all these things, whereof we accuse him. And the Yahudim also assented, saying that these things were so. Then Shaul, after that the governor had beckoned unto him to speak, answered, For as much as I know that you have been of many years a judge unto this nation, I do the more cheerfully answer for myself. Because that, so this is all Paul speaking right now. Because that you may understand that there are yet but 12 days since I went up to Jerusalem for to worship, and they neither found me in a temple disputing with any man, neither raising up the people, neither in the synagogues nor in the city. Neither can they prove the things whereof they now accuse me. But this I confess unto you, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I Yahuwah of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the Torah and in the prophets. So I want to read that again just for myself. Believing all things which are written in the Torah
Uh-huh.
and in the prophets.
So, where did he go wrong there? He's sitting there pleading his case. He's pleading his case to this man. Well, yeah, to this judge or whoever he was. To, what was his name? The governor. And he said, for as much as I know, you know, you've been a judge unto this nation for a while, for many years. And then cheerfully, I can answer for myself, though. I don't need nobody else coming in here saying something that I did when I was there. I was in there 12 days. They ain't seen me do none of that.
You can't prove it.
And you can't prove it. I don't go against the law or the prophet. So why am I here? They lying. Hit Acts 25. After this, we almost done. We almost done. Acts 25, 1. Now here come another one. Go ahead. Acts 25, 1.
The book of Acts, chapter 25, verse 1. Now, when Festus was come into the province, after 3 days he ascended from Caesarea to Jerusalem.
All right, hold on right there. Now, Festus is, I guess he needs another judge, but drop down to verse 6. He wants Paul's head too. Drop down to 6.
Verse 6.
And read on through 11.
And when he had tarried among them more than 10 days, he went down unto Caesarea, and the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, commanded Paul to be brought. And when he was come, the Jews which came down from Jerusalem stood round about, and laid many and grievous complaints against Paul, which they could not prove.
They couldn't prove it. They kept running their doggone mouth, couldn't prove nothing. Keep going.
While he answered for himself,
For itself.
neither against the law of the Jews, neither against the temple, nor yet against Caesar, have I offended anything at all. But Festus, willing to do the Jews a pleasure, answered Paul and said, wilt thou go up to Jerusalem, and there be judged of these things before me?
Now, Paul wasn't no dummy. Check him out. Go ahead.
Then said Paul, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat.
I'm standing right here. Y'all know, take me back to Jerusalem and crucify me and do what y'all want to do to me. I'm going to sit right here and take Caesar's judgment. Keep going.
Where I ought to be judged. To the Jews have I done no wrong, as thou very well knowest. For if I be an offender, or have committed anything worthy of death, I refuse not to die.
I refuse not to die.
But if there be none of these things whereof these accuse me, no man may deliver me unto them. I appeal unto Caesar.
So I refuse not to die, so you're not going to take me back over here to Jerusalem so y'all can kill me for something I ain't do.
Just because they mad.
Just because you mad. You going to try to kill me? Nah, bro. I'm sitting right here with Caesar. I want to see what Caesar got to say about this, because y'all ain't finna give me like that. I'm sorry. I apologize. I can't do it.
You see how that parallels with Aham? Because do we know who actually put him to death? They chose Barnabas over him. That wasn't the Gentiles that did that.
No, that wasn't true.
They got roused up. Not
Exactly.
the Pharisees, but
Exactly.
we were the crowd, man.
And it's the same thing the Apostle Paul is saying. I'm not going to go back there and I know these people, which is my people. We're going to put me to death. I will be judged under the law of the Gentile, and under the law of a self-proclaimed Israelite. Because they're not living according to righteousness.
But we also have to understand that this gets confused so much from where I came from, which I was a Christian at one point. It's like, people, and it's still being taught. They get so confused. They look at, they talk about us too, but they listen to like Festus and these people and the Jews, and they talk about the people and how they're coming against let's say Paul, or let's say Yahushua, and they're saying that they're saying stuff about the Torah or the law, and they're using that to say this is why. See, they're saying that we're accusing you based on the law, and Yahushua or Paul or whoever is saying no, that's not right. So they're using that to say that the Pharisees or the Jews were preaching the law, and they were accusing Yahushua or Jesus or Paul or Peter or Paul or whoever with the law, but they're saying, but Peter and Paul and Jesus or whoever is saying, no, that doesn't exist anymore. Nah, they got it wrong. The Pharisees and all these people, they were not keeping the law.
Right.
They were not. They were trying to accuse them of different things, but they were accusing them of man-made traditions and things of that nature. They were not. They were. And at no point did the Most High or did any disciples say anything against the law. I mean, in the specific statements, I came not one jot or nor tittle will go away from the law. I misquoted there. That's Yahushua himself. Right. You saying that, and you see right here that Paul is saying, I believe and I'm basically teaching all of this stuff according to the Torah and the prophets.
And the Apostle Paul understood what had taken place with his forefathers.
Right.
Because when Judah and Benjamin went out there and won that war, and they against, I can't think of who it was, but when they won, they took concubines, they took all these people and brought them into Israel, and they took those people, and those people had to adjust and live by the law. And so that's where a lot of the Pharisees came from. That's where a lot of the Sadducees came from. Right. Because they wasn't original. Right.
And they weren't righteous.
And they weren't righteous at all. So they were looking more to tear it down than they was to build it. Right. But the Apostle Paul knew that. Right. You see?
Paul, his epistles, his letters went out to churches, right? And there is an account, I didn't find another one, but there is an account where the Corinthians, the people of Corinth, wrote to him. I don't know what they actually said in the letter. All I know is what I'm reading here and what it says of his answer. And his answer was still within the Torah and the prophets. 1 Corinthians 7.
1 Corinthians 7, 1 and 2. 1 Corinthians 7 and 1. Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me.
He wrote unto me. They asked him something, here goes his answer.
It is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication. Let every man have his own woman, and let every woman have her own man.
That's it.
And when he said woman, also you put wife.
Right.
In that place, right?
Right. So that still, he answered, the people of Corinth should have came up and said, well, look, we answered him. We wrote him a letter, and he wrote us back, and this is what it said. This right here doesn't go against nothing in the law, nothing the prophet said. This don't go against none of that. Did you find that in scripture? All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Romans 11, verse 1. I say then, has Elohim cast away his people? Elohim forbid. This is Paul speaking. For I also am an Israelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. And
That was Romans 11.
Romans 11, verse 1. And now we're in the book of Acts, chapter 22.
Now Paul got into a lot of myths. Now after this, I'm done. But Paul got into a lot of myths running around here teaching this gospel. He got into a lot of stuff. And I know people get confused. They say, oh, Paul was a Gentile. That's why the brother Red said that he's from the tribe of Benjamin. And it's because of this right here is why people say that Paul was a Gentile. Go ahead,
Acts chapter 22, verse 22. And they gave him audience unto this word, and then lifted up their voices and said, away with such a fellow from the earth, for it is not fit that he should live. And as they cried out, and cast off their clothes, and threw dust in the air, The chief captain commanded him to be brought into the castle, and bade that he should be examined by scourging. That
Scourge, that sounds like hurt. Don't get scourged. Keep going.
that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman?
Now, the brother slick. He's slick because Paul was one of those Gentiles that was born in Rome. Right? So that means that he has Roman citizenship. He knows this. And he also knows that he's from the tribe of Benjamin. He knows the order of business. So the brother still didn't lie. He had a quick tongue though. He said, hey, hold on. You can't do it. Can you do this to one of your own citizens, man? Can you do it? Can you scourge me? What was that word?
Scourge.
Scourge? I don't know what that is, but it sounds like it hurt.
Right.
But keep going though.
Verse 25. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, Yeah. And the chief captain answered, With a great sum obtained I this freedom. And Paul said, I was freeborn. Then straightway they departed from him which should have examined him. And the chief captain also was afraid, after he knew that he was a Roman, and because he bound him. On the morrow, because he would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews, he loosed him from his bands, and commanded the chief priests and all their council to appear, and brought Paul down and set him before them.
See, but he was already in chains. So this dude sitting there kicking and screaming, Hey, hold on, he already chained up. That boy, his mouth got into a lot of stuff, but he stayed with it. I mean, that's gonna happen. We gotta stay with it, regardless of what the situation may be. The brother didn't lie. He said, "Hey, you quick, slip tongue." But
you know, that's what the mere reason when he was talking about the Gentiles being Israel and Gentiles, like that was the meat of the Apostle Paul going to the Gentiles. And we read Hosea 8:8. And just hear this for a second. Because there was no way he could go out because he couldn't go out and get it. But Israel was spread among the Gentiles. He had to go to the Gentiles in order to get Israel. Read that up.
Hosea chapter 8, verse 8. Israel is swallowed up.
Israel is swallowed up.
Now shall they be among the Gentiles.
You see, they are among the Gentiles. What?
As a vessel wherein is no pleasure.
Because he couldn't dwell, the Most High couldn't dwell in them with them having the acts and the behavior of the Gentiles. It's just like in this hour, those people that just worshiping the sun, which is on Sunday, they have what you call it thing, a sunrise service. All these different things they're doing, and they proclaiming that it is His name. Remember, you're gonna say, did I not heal people in your name? Did I not? He gonna say, I never knew you. Never knew you.
You look at it this way too. With him sending him to the Gentiles, knowing that he had Israel scattered amongst the Gentiles, they do what the Gentiles do. Why not get the Gentiles to do what I need you to do, which is keep my law, statutes, and commandments, so that Israel that's lost within you will see you doing that and do what you do, and then
But see, they had
come for their salvation.
They had to be provoked into jealousy, right?
Right.
So when you got Jeremiah 3, and you got 11 through 14, and they begin to talk about some things, and they're talking directly to Israel as a nation of people, right? And it's talking about the two tribes, right? But the two sides, it's talking about Israel and it's talking about Judah. You know, a lot of people don't realize that Judah was worse than Israel did, right? But he said he's gonna wake Judah up first. Do you have that? 3 and 11?
Jeremiah 3, verse 11.
Yeah, real quick, like, let's run down through it.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 11.
Uh-huh.
And the Most High said unto me,
Uh-huh.
the backsliding Israel has justified herself more than treacherous Judah.
He called Judah treacherous. But he said backslide. How did they backslide? They turned to the Gentiles. Read.
Go and proclaim these words towards the north,
Uh-huh.
and say,
Uh-huh.
return,
Mhm.
thou backsliding Israel,
Mhm.
said the Most High, and I will not cause my anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, said the Most High, and I will not keep anger forever.
Read one more time.
Same verse.
Yeah, no, keep going. 13.
Verse 13. Only acknowledge thine iniquity, that thou hast transgressed against the Most High, thy Elohim,
Uh-huh.
and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree, and ye have not obeyed my voice, said the Most High.
Read.
Turn, O backsliding children, said the Most High, for I am married unto you, and I will take you one of a city, and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion.
So Israel is not hopeless. He's gonna bring them back, right?
Right.
But they gotta do some things themselves.
Right.
You know, we know we gotta acknowledge the sins of our forefathers, and most important, our own sin.
Mm-hmm.
But the bigger thing about David, and I know we're talking about Paul, the bigger thing about David, and David became a man after his own heart. When David went out and did wrong, and he did some things, when he repented for it, he didn't return unto it.
That's right.
And that's the big that's the big difference, right? And then the 17th verse says, is that at that time they shall call Jerusalem the throne of what?
Of the Most High.
Right. So you think about that, right? When you go back to Revelation 21, how can our Hamashiach rule over the throne of David, and David's throne was in Jerusalem, but he ruled it from heaven? It's not possible, because that's his father's throne.
Right.
You know, and the Apostle Paul is a very strong individual. When you just think about the amount of books that Apostle Paul have out there. And yeah, there's a lot of books that's missing. But it says in Isaiah 49, and 2, it says, well, let me back up to 1. It says, listen, O isles, unto me, and hearken, ye people from afar. The Lord, it says, our Elohim has called me from the womb. Right? From the bowels of my mother has he mentioned in my name. And he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadows of his hand has he hid me, and made me a polished staff. In the quiver has he hid me. Remember we talking about hiding in what? Remember we talking about hiding in his
Secret place.
last week.
Secret place.
Right, in the secret place?
Mm-hmm.
His secret place is in the Word. That's how he did that. You know? Go ahead, my brother. No, I'm coming down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think a lot of confusion comes in too, like, when you talk about some of Paul's teaching, like, you look at Colossians 2:14 through 16, you talk about, you know, the laws are nailed to the cross, and don't let no man judge you with meat offerings and all that stuff.
Right.
You let no man judge you with meat. I think they were talking about offerings. Don't let no man judge you in those things. So people, you go to the, you know, Christian church, whatever, they may use that to talk about the law.
They had a brother
So
that was a preacher.
Uh,
The preacher said that everybody don't pay tithes, you line against the wall.
16.
All right. Did you get it?
Yeah.
I said 13 through 15.
You probably start 14.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, the way that they use meat in that one is just food. Just like in Genesis, where it talks about every herb will be given to you for meat, the same as every herb will be given to you for food. That's how I was using that. But I can,
See, okay, we ain't gotta be like that. But, you know, in 14, you said, talk about nailing it to the cross. What was nailed to the cross? What law was nailed to the cross? It was done away with. The law of animal sacrifice, correct?
Exactly.
So,
And the law of judgment.
right,
Yeah, those ordinances.
right.
Right. He spends time explaining that. Because there were still people that, still those of us that believe that our salvation was the law, statutes, and commandments, including the sacrificial aspect of it, you know, as opposed to having faith in our Messiah. You know, so he's trying to say like look, no, that's, you know, and honestly, it's still it's not a departure from the law, statutes, and commandments, and the promise, because all that is in there. He's in the volume of the book. He's all in there. But again, you know, things are being misconstrued, and even like the judgment and the meats and the drinks and the offerings and stuff like that. That's more so about the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom coming together, because there was so much criticism for those people that were trying to come back in and get an understanding of what was going on. They were doing stuff wrong. The same stuff we do today. We get some people that are, you know, new in the truth, and we are harsh to them. Like, no, you're doing this wrong. Blah, blah, blah. You know, no, you should be doing this. You know, and we're harsh to them as opposed to loving them and welcoming them and trying to, you know, teach them appropriately. You know what I'm saying? And that can be ends up being a stumbling block to other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in 16, it's talking about actual meat, talking about actual drink. It's talking about the holy days. Because, you know, we telling people, okay, you can't eat this pork, you can't eat catfish. They're going to judge you because you don't do it. They say, oh, you can't drink, that's a sin. Okay, show me a scripture where it says drinking is a sin. Drinking alcohol is a sin. It said, don't judge me, don't judge in meat or drink, or in respect of a holy day. So we keeping the holy days, we keeping Shabbat. We're doing that, we're not doing Christmas, we're not doing Easter. We condemn it, you know, we speak against that. Or of the new moon, you know, when the new moon shows up, you know, that's how we're able to count our days, our Shabbats, our holy days, or of the Sabbath day. So it's not saying, I can understand how that can be, I can understand how it can be tricky. But it's not saying don't. It's not saying if you go to somebody's house and they cooking catfish, it's okay if you eat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not saying don't let anybody judge you in this. Don't let anybody judge you in doing it. But if you know what you're doing is right, they're gonna judge you because you're not doing what they do.
Right.
That's what that is. So, with that being said, I want to thank each and every last one of you for coming out. I greatly appreciate it. Let's go ahead and go to the prayer, bro. Thank you for your time.
We get
Let's stand and face the east. Kneel and face the east.
if you can.
Okay.